Welcome to the Startup Grind.
At Startup Grind, we usually just start from the beginning. So you tell us a little bit about you. Who is Miyanda? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Interesting question. I mean, being an HR person, I ask that question all the time, but I don't like that question being asked. I was born in Livingston 42 years ago. I know they say women never disclose their age, but I don't have a problem with that. At the age of 8, by no choice of mine, my parents made a decision to move to Zimbabwe. I have mixed feelings about that move. I have good feelings because I always say I was educated by Robert Mugabe. You know what that means, right? You brought up tough and you're tested and you don't give up and you've got a certain level of determination that is really unquestionable. On the other side, I feel like I lost 25 years of having had the opportunity to grow up in Zambia. So my coming back in 2006 meant that I had a 25-year, I was 25 years behind everybody else who was already here. So it was a little bit difficult for me to come back in the sense that I am Tonga, but I hardly speak. My father gets very upset with that. And so I grew up in Zimbabwe, was educated in Zimbabwe. I wasn't the smartest kid in class, I must say. I was an average kid. But one of the things that I realized at a very young age is I was an extremely creative person. There's certain decisions that were made for me as a child that I always say would then sort of haunt me in my later years, especially in my journey to come back. Because obviously at some point my parents split, so we were raised by a single mother. She was a civil servant, a mayor stenographer, and life was very difficult. When I look back, I don't know how we managed. Food was luxury, water, electricity was always disconnected. I hardly went to school. I think in a year probably I would go 2 terms, sometimes an entire term I wouldn't go to school because there was just no money for school fees. So as a young child, I think I must have been about 10, my mother had to be extremely innovative, enterprising, because she had to supplement that civil servant salary. And so she taught me how to knit, she taught me how to sew, she taught me how to plait hair.
Okay.
And I can tell you now that I actually educated myself through college by plaiting people's hair. So I missed an entire childhood because I needed to go into people's homes, plait hair, and I know there were many times when I plait hair and then go back home because that money was needed. But there were a number of uncomfortable times where I would plait expecting to get paid, and you know, for women who understand braiding, it takes a whole day. And I'll braid, and after 12 hours of standing, the person would just say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'll pay you money." And here's a child at 10 who is expecting to get this little amount, knowing very well that there was no food at home and everybody was waiting for that amount. So it was a very difficult childhood. I don't regret it because it is what has made me the person that I am today. Because for me, the word impossible, it cannot be done. I don't have money to start a business. Or when people come to me and start a sentence by saying, "I come from a poor family," I stop them before they go any further, because I say, this is Africa. We all come from poor families. Or somebody comes to you and says, "I'm a double orphan." I mean, a 42-year-old man saying, "I'm a double orphan." What kind of an excuse?
That has got an expiry date, shouldn't it?
No. A 42-year-old double orphan. So I stopped them on their tracks and I said, "There's nothing you can tell me about poverty. There's nothing you can tell me about sleeping hungry. There's nothing you can tell me about eating shima with salt and water to survive. There's nothing you can tell me about walking 2 bus rides just to get to school." So my childhood was very difficult, and because of that, coming out of it, I made a decision that if I ever had children, they would never go through what I went through. Not because I despise what I went through, but it is just not fair for any child to go through that.
So when you talk about children, how do you balance that? That sometimes as parents we grew up through the struggle, and then in trying to prevent that, then our children sort of get us relaxed? How do you instill the discipline so that they don't now go the other side and say, "Mommy, get us another car"?
I'm a tough
Why
mother.
not?
I'm a tough mother. There was a time where my daughters were very small. I've got 2 daughters. One just finished matric. I've got a child going to university now.
Wow.
And the other is going into grade 8. And there was a time where they were in primary, but because I was brought up by a tough mother, naturally I became a tough mother. So there was a time when I can't remember what they did, and I said to them, do you know how you came into this world? And I know this sounds cruel, but mothers take it from me. I said to them, do you know how you came into this world? And they obviously looked at me with big eyes, and they said yes. And I said, so you know the only person who can take you out of this world is me, right? They've never misbehaved after that. So when I say no, it's no. I try to be a good mother. I'm very close with my children. I'm an open mother. I have young teens. At 14, my child comes to me and says, "Mommy, hypothetically," and I know it's not hypothetical, hypothetically, if this boy is interested in me, what kind of hypothesis is that? So I try to be as open as I am with my children, and I want them to come to me. I don't want them to go to somebody else to seek advice.
Absolutely.
And I think I haven't done badly.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. And your kids are in boarding school? Or you went to boarding school?
My daughters are in boarding school in South Africa. I had to make a very tough decision.
Yeah.
I always talk about balance, but really once you begin to venture into the world of entrepreneurs, something is going to have to give. And you have to make a decision as to what is going to give. So initially they were here in Zambia at Lusaka school. But what would happen is when one child finished school, I would pick her up, take her home. And by the time it was the second one finished, I would be picking up, and then there was no time for me to grow the business.
Yeah.
So I had to make that tough decision to say, okay, I'm going to put them in boarding school so that I can get a little bit more time to grow this business in order for me to give them a better life. I know most people will say, well, you know what, you can't get those years back. But I made sure that the times that I would be with them were really fulfilled times, and that is why I have a rule. I don't work Saturday, I don't work Sunday, I don't pick up business calls Saturday, Sunday. I don't pick up my call after 17 hours because I need to give that time to my family, and that I do not compromise.
Oh, brilliant. No, my next question is really on that in terms of how do you deal with the people, because usually the kids are fine. Like my wife and I had to go through that as well. We sent our kids to boarding school in KZN. The younger one was was in grade 1. So it was a difficult one, but the kids loved it. But still, it's just the people that, hey, how do you send your kids to boarding school? How did you deal with that, like externally? But you were okay as a family, but how did you do that?
The one thing that has helped me in my personal life is people's opinion don't really matter to me. Yes. That is the one thing that I don't have time for that. Because the people that say those things, I mean, oftentimes I go to my budget and I look for their names on my and they're not paying any of my bills. For me to sit down and listen to somebody who's telling me that I'm not a mother enough to send a child to boarding school in grade 3, they have no clue what they're talking about. This is my life, and I live it in the way I want, in my own lane, my race, no competition.
Fantastic. I think that's really great. And tell us more about when did you make that transition now into when did you start working?
After 3 years of college, I did a higher national diploma in human resource management.
Okay.
Obviously, like I said, I was the average kid, hopeless in mathematics. And what happened was when I was working for the communications company, they began to go through a couple of challenges, and because of those challenges, we had so much idle time. So others would spend time on the phone, others would go out doing whatever else. I spent time on the internet, and my mind started getting these insane ideas that I could go into private business. I did a little bit of research. I did a little bit of research, and I remember calling a friend of mine. We went to college together, and I said,
Just check the microphone.
Okay, I think it's fine. We went to college together, so I grew up and I said, listen, I've got this idea of us starting an HR consultancy firm. I think I must have been about 28, 29. Young, no experience, never worked in consultancy. The only thing I had was the certificate from college, so really I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember even until today, I can still hear her laughing at me. She laughed for like 3 minutes. And I held the phone, and after she finished her laugh, she said to me, Miyanda, you must be insane. What do you know about consultancy? I mean, who is even going to listen to you? And I think it is words like that. For me, when I meet somebody who says no to me, I often say to them, big mistake. You just made the biggest mistake, because I'm then driven. And I'm driven by this hunger to come back to you and say, what did you say?
Say that. Say what you say.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the first little liter of fuel that made me want to go out there and make a decision. And so in me wanting to try and prove something, I made a rash decision to quit my job. Big mistake. Don't do that. Don't get emotional. Don't try to prove anything to anybody. I know it looks glamorous when you eventually see successful people in business and they're driving big cars and life looks fancy. Believe me, people don't see. And unless you're ready to do that 24/7, do not make an emotional decision to quit. It's not 2 months and then suddenly the money starts flowing in. It's not a month and then suddenly you're at Southern Cross and you're looking at the latest Mercedes-Benz. It doesn't work like that. For the people that are married, this is tough talk you have to have with your spouse, because one of the things that I've noticed that actually stops a lot of people from succeeding in business is it is the spouse who is not supportive enough. Because at some point when you don't prepare the way I did, because I didn't prepare, so it took me 9 months before I could even pick up a check. 9 months. And remember, I made an emotional decision. The job I had then, I was a manager, so I had all the perks, the company car and the company this and the glamour of that. And in my mind, I thought, because I worked so hard, and I mean, I was confirmed probation in 3 weeks.
Wow.
That's how crazy I work. So I was convinced that the 2 years that I'd worked for this company, when I resigned, naturally they would give me the car. I mean, why wouldn't they say, you know, and why wouldn't they just sit down with me and say, for all you have done for us, here's a little package, you know, take $3,000 and get. When I resigned, my MD sat me down. You've got no experience, you've got no, why don't you work another maybe 2 years and get a little bit more feel of what it means to manage. I had made up my mind. I needed to prove something to somebody. So I said, okay, let me give you 3 months notice. And within 3 months, surely I would have made a decision if this is going to work or not. And the company was still going through challenges. So within those 3 months, the first month, I would write proposals and I would take a day off and I would go and pitch. I ran out of days. I started killing uncles and aunts so that I could, you know, I had funerals, and then eventually I had killed all my uncles. And I realized I was going to go and say, my father died and my father's not dead. And so after a month, I went back to the MD and I said, I cannot do this. I'm going to take the plunge and this is it. And we had the pep talk again, and then he said to me, okay, so you've made a decision, but what I'll do is I'll keep your job open for 6 months in case you decide to come back. However, on your way out, don't forget to leave the keys for the car. Suddenly, reality sank. I mean, I'd been driving for 2 years, really, and when my car broke, I would get another car from the office. I didn't even know where to get the bus. And suddenly I had to find out where to get the bus. I didn't know how much it was to pay on the bus. And I remember sitting on the bus with some people that, you know, when on a rainy day people stop for a lift and you drive past with your head up. I remember sitting with them on that bus. So it was a humbling experience, and I think for anybody trying to go into business, you have to be ready for that. It was such a drop for me, but I was determined. I was determined to change something. And really, that's when my journey.
Okay. Yes.
Tough journey began.
Tough journey. And was that the birth of Prosoft?
That was the birth of Prosoft, yes.
Okay.
That was the birth of Prosoft.
What's been the journey like for Prosoft?
Oh, it's been very difficult. It's been very difficult. Like I said, I thought I would quit my job, and at the most within a month, I would score a big contract and I would buy my car, and it didn't happen. And then second month and third month, fourth, and in my 9th month, I actually made a decision to start looking for a job. I hadn't saved. The only money I had was my bonus from the December. Remember, I resigned in December. So that is all I had. I didn't have an office. Prosoft was birthed in the spare bedroom of my children. That's where it was birthed. So it was very difficult. A friend of mine, and this is where networks really come in, said to me, you know what, nobody's going to take you seriously if you're working from home. Come to my office, go in the little corner there and start working from there. Went to the little corner, I had no desk. I went to him and I said, in desk. I had no chair. I went back to him and I said, I'm chair. And then I sat there and I sat like this because I had no computer. And he had a couple of laptops, and I went to him and I said, a laptop. You know, so he's the one who gave me a heads up to my first contract. And this is the one thing that I want to advise anybody who's planning to go into private business, is that from day one, you have to brand yourself in such a way that people think you are this organization with 15 floors and 3,000 workers running around. Because believe me, even in my walking, what I used to do is I would move around with 2 pairs of shoes, the flat industry and the high heels, to then convert into Madam CEO. So I would walk into industry, get to a company, and I'd ask the guard if I could use their guard room. And that is where I then converted. Put on my high heels and spray my cheap perfume and fix my hair. It was cheap, but I had to have perfume. Because when you walk in the reception and your perfume precedes you, the secretary starts to think, there must be somebody here. So I would overspray the bottle and then walk into reception. And when you walk into those receptions, because as entrepreneurs, you will want to meet with decision makers. Don't waste your time with people who cannot make decisions. You leave your paperwork. You leave your paperwork with secretaries, and this is no disrespect to secretaries, but most of the times they don't even pass that message. So for me, my strategy from day one was to hit it at the top. I had no time for junior staff because they lie to you that they're reviewing a project or a proposal, so I had no time for that. So I would walk into the reception and I would make sure that I'd find out what the managing director's first name is. When you say to a peer, I want to see Joseph, and she's never called her boss by the name, she's gonna let you in. I mean, why would she not let you in? It worked a couple of times. It blew in my face a couple of times, because by the time I met Joseph, he wouldn't even know who I was. So you have to have really good strategies.
Let's pick it up. So that was your experience going through all those different offices and your strategies, getting to know the first name when you get in. And what were the marketing or some of the marketing or sales strategies that you used in order to build your track record, build your name, and to grow Prosoft to what it is now?
Like I said, the most important thing is to brand yourself.
Yes.
And credibility before visibility. Most entrepreneurs want to be seen before people can even believe that they have the capacity to deliver on whatever it is that they're saying. So for me, it was always me physically going one-on-one. I never did the telephone discussions. If anybody called me, and even until today, if anybody calls me and they want to discuss business, I say to them, where are you? I will be there in the next 20 minutes. Because once you put a face to a voice, it's really to build a brand, starting from the selection of your name. I mean, who would think a black girl could have a company called Prosoft? I mean, Prosoft International. But what you want to do is you want to be Mulenga's sons and daughters. I mean, you've got to be very careful, and also be very careful in terms of the colors that you pick, the logo that you pick. But most entrepreneurs are too quick to want to make the money without thinking of those marketing strategies that allow you to be seen and noticed. I never ever, not a single day did I look at myself as an entrepreneur. I was working, and I was working for Prosoft. So even though I didn't have offices, I hustled in traffic like everybody else. I would even get upset.
Yeah.
Because I was going to work. But most entrepreneurs want to wake up at 10 after having full English breakfast, and then they go into the market and 2-3 doors close, and then by 14 hours they're back home and watching TV. It doesn't work like that. This is a 24/7 life that you make a decision. I mean, for many years, my bedmate was my laptop. And I would have a thought in the night, and I'd wake up and I'd start sending something. And I remember at some point sending an email to a client. It was 02 in the morning, and I didn't realize it was 02. And I sent a message, and 15 minutes later I sent a message back, and I said, "Why are you not responding to my email?" And the next morning, obviously, the client said, "Are you okay?" It was 02. So you get into that mode as an entrepreneur.
Okay, and you mentioned something critical here, I think, which I only learned a few years ago, that when you're an entrepreneur, you were saying, I'm running this, like I'm totally in charge, meaning I can get up at 6 or get up at 10. You know, we see it different from I work for.
Yes.
Because you work for African Trust Academy, you work for Prosoft. It's a different discipline and thinking to that. Could you explain a little bit more on that?
Discipline is everything. I think with me from day one, I said to myself, I'm working for, and I put myself on a salary, and never took a penny outside of the salary that I put myself. Because in my mind I told myself, this money belongs to the business, this is not my money. So there were no holidays and whatever else at that time. Of course the holidays have begun to happen, but at the time there wasn't that. And I was so disciplined to get into the office at a certain time and to leave at a certain time. And even when I began to then employ staff, they learned to walk my walk. And I did it in such a way that I would also be in the field. I was a salesperson. If I give targets to my team, I give myself the same target. So at the end of the month, they cannot come to me and say there's no business elsewhere, because guess what? I've met my target and I was in the field as well. So for me, I always had the thing of getting into the office at 7. And I noticed that my staff, I mean, the contracts say 8, but I noticed they started coming in at 7. And I noticed that they would get in before 7, before me, and it was a party that they got to the office before me, and I didn't realize that. But the way you work as the employer, the way you execute your discipline, your performance, your attention to detail is what your team will do.
Okay.
Yes, it's as simple as that.
Brilliant. And tell us now, from Prosoft you had a few other ventures. Tell us which one came first after Prosoft.
I often say I have a restless mind. And every time I say to myself, this is the last project. And I don't know how many times I've said that to myself. I've always believed in having multiple sources of income. And I think even now in these challenging times that the country is going through, that is what has kept me going. So when everybody else is saying times are tough, I go to my other little source of income, and that's what keeps me going. So I've always had an interest in a lot of things. I've had an interest in property. I've had an interest in retail. I've had an interest in health and beauty.
Yes.
I discovered the easiest way to make money. And I know people say there's no easy way to make money, but network marketing, the easiest way to make money. And I've made it.
Tell us about that.
Okay. I came across a company called Angel Lifestyle about 2-3 years ago. I tried it. Angel Lifestyle is like forever living and whatever else. I tried it. And broke records, 20-year records, made a fortune. I was getting paid in rand, so it sorted out my kids' school fees and flights. I did make a lot of money. There was a time where I would wake up in the morning and look, this is when you have done your work.
Yes. Yes.
This is not after 2 months of quitting. This is after 12 years of being in business. So don't go and say, man, they say you will be jet setting around the world. No, you have to do your work first. You know, so I made really good extra money, and for me that was my pocket money.
Okay.
So it never interfered with my major business, which was obviously Prosoft. You know, so I could jet set. I would go on holiday. I would wake up in the morning and feel I needed to go and have lunch in Santa, and I'll do that. You know, I've done that.
Yes.
And I've done that because I look back from where I come from and I say to myself, I deserve it.
Brilliant. And you said, like, network marketing is easy, but then a lot of people are in it, and some would make it, others would not, because others believe that it just because they've joined, then automatically the money will start.
No, it doesn't. It's a lot.
What is the discipline or the work that somebody needs to?
It's an understanding what it is.
Okay.
Network marketing is not about selling products. Network marketing is about recruiting people.
Okay.
You know, and people spend more time selling the products rather than growing the business to then build up the residual income.
Okay.
So that's where they get it. And you can do it in your sleep, and it's great extra income. Really great.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I've done well.
Excellent. And tell us about your other ventures. You are a certified.
I am a certified image consultant.
Yes.
The reason why I decided to get that certification was, as a recruiter, I'm always sitting on interviewing panels. I always meet people who want to go into business, and I take a 2-minute look at them and I just say they're not going to get the job. Whether you like it or not, first impressions matter. When you walk into a room, within 30 seconds, people make a decision on whether they will employ you or not, or whether they will give you business or not. Within 30 seconds, that's how short it is. And so if you lose the credibility of your appearance within those 30 seconds, it means the next 60 seconds, when you open your mouth, do you have the ability to captivate people's attention within those 60 seconds? And so, because I was seeing all the wrong things that, and I'm sure even I was making in terms of presentation, in terms of dressing, in terms of speaking and articulating myself. So I went and was certified in South Africa as an image consultant, and that really helped me even personally, because when we pitch for tenders, for work, and the client says, okay, the next step is for you to come and do a pitch, I know that even if my tender is not good enough on paper, the mistake is to ask me to come and stand in front of them. Obviously, I'll get the deal.
I see. And then about your business coaching.
Oh yeah, business coaching. I hardly accept speaking engagements.
Okay.
Because I always like to speak about a subject matter that I'm good at. A lot of people will say, well, you're good at speaking, speak about it anyway. I don't do that. So I speak about something I'm passionate about. I enjoy business coaching because I've walked the entrepreneur's road. I know the do's and don'ts, the tough and the nights of crying and the difficult times. And so I take time to coach people. But one of the things that I've noticed, especially with Zambians, is we don't have the staying power. Many people will take a package with a view of starting their own business, but within 6 months, the same person out there spent so many coaching hours comes back with their CV and says, "Miyanda, this is just not working for me." So it is that drive that I have to try and get as many people into the world of business. But listen, it's not for everybody. I know everybody thinks entrepreneurship is for everybody. You have a choice. If you can make a decision to be an employee for the rest of your life, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you make the decision to be an employee or to work for somebody for the rest of your life, the industry has become so cutthroat that you have to make sure that you are always studying. And I don't like that. You can't make me study. 2 minutes I'm falling asleep, but give me a book by Richard Branson and I can read it forever. So if you make a decision to work for somebody until you retire, it has become such a cutthroat job market. Employers are looking for the most qualified, the most educated, the most experienced. I mean, we've got young kids out of Unza, they finish their degree, they can't find jobs, they do their masters, they can't find jobs, they do their PhD. My own sister got her PhD at the age of 28. Now, how do you compete with somebody like that? So if that's your decision to work for somebody, it's fine. Work for somebody, but improve yourself in terms of just educating yourself. Then if you make a decision that you're going to walk the entrepreneur road, it's going to be difficult. There's no glam and glory. It comes later in the years, but it's just really difficult. There are moments of victory, yes, but it is very difficult. It's very difficult.
I appreciate that you're putting it as bluntly as possible, because statistically it's true. Entrepreneurs lose more money than employees do. So statistically, somebody who's qualified is better off just being an employee than being an entrepreneur. Although being an entrepreneur, people think is glamorous. An entrepreneur want to be like you, but in reality, that's what we read about the few success stories, because there is need for that staying power, and there'll be times when things are not working.
The staying power comes from the reason you make a decision to go into private business. And most entrepreneurs make the decision to go into private business because they think they will make a lot of money. And so 6 months down the line, when the money is not coming in, then they lose that momentum. For me, other than obviously trying to prove myself to whoever else had told me that I couldn't become anything, is the fact that as I began to get into my entrepreneur journey, remember that I'd quit my job, so I was jobless. I was going through a divorce. That's the time I made a decision also to transition and come to Zambia. Remember, I'd grown up in Zimbabwe, and at some point in my mother's anger, because she was angry with my Zambian father, so she changed all our papers and we became on paper Zimbabweans. And so when I came back here, my assumption was I get to the border, I hand over those papers and get back my Zimbabwean citizen, my Zambian papers, and I was told at the border it doesn't work like that. So at some point I was stateless. Because every time I went to Zimbabwe, they said, you're not one of us. When I came here, they said, wait a minute. So I could have looked at that challenge and said, well, you know what, I'm just going to give up and I'm just going to sit, but I fought the system. And even when I was told you can only stay for 30 days, or you can only stay for, in my own country of birth, you can only stay for 30 days, you can only stay for 60 days. But here I am today, you know. So you have to have a strong enough reason to go into private business. And as I was saying, for me, it was finding myself in this difficult situation and having 2 young children. They were just grade 1 and grade 3, and having the memories of a difficult childhood. So every time I would go to a client and they'll say, well, Miyanda, you're not good enough, you don't have experience, or we don't have money. I would say to myself, well, if they tell me they don't have money, I cannot go to my children's school and say, well, you know what, headmaster, school fees won't be paid this term because client A says they don't have money. That was just not an option. So I don't understand why most people who go into private business, the minute one door shuts, they go and find their CV and they look for employment. The reason you start just has to be strong enough that even when the odds are totally against you, even when you hit those brick walls constantly, you say to yourself, you know what, this is not going to defeat you. It's not going to defeat me. But if the reason is just wishy-washy, like I want to buy a Mercedes, I mean really, so if you don't buy a Mercedes, what happens? So yeah, so people have to really sit and introspect and get that reason right. That is what will keep them going when times are tough.
Brilliant. So as a business coach now and as an experienced entrepreneur, what would you say are the biggest mistakes most entrepreneurs at different levels make, just from your knowledge?
Okay, obviously the first one, which I said, is quitting without thinking. Making an emotional decision because you don't like your boss, you don't like your salary, and you think you're being treated unfairly, so you write a resignation letter. Big mistake. With hindsight, I would not have gone through those 9 months of difficulty if I had not made an emotional decision. And so what I would advise you is to keep some saving that would last you at least 12 months. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but then you have to scale down. So if it means 2,000 every month, and 2 by 12, you've got your 24 on the side, that will keep you going, especially for people who are married. That you will fight. Believe me, there's a lot of people that have gone through divorces because the husband was stubborn or wife was stubborn, and suddenly the money ran out. The second mistake that most entrepreneurs make is not realizing that what is difficult when running a business is not having what is called petty cash. Most of you know what petty cash is. It's those little amounts to buy airtime and to put fuel in your car. When that runs dry, or to buy cartridge to print the next proposal or the next tender, or sometimes you run out of 100 kwacha to go and buy a tender document. So it is not having that. Forget about the big amounts. Those big amounts will come. We have to be patient. Third mistake, lack of patience. Let's register the business today and tomorrow, or we're going to be shuttling off to Mauritius on holiday. It doesn't work like that. Third mistake is the very first business card you make, you are a CEO. Get back to earth. You're not at that level. Why do you call yourself CEO? You know, you're just broke. You're just unemployed. You're on the street, and suddenly you're big-headed and calling yourself CEO. So get that out of your mind. Rather call yourself ops manager, or just say operations, or marketing, or sales. That brings you right down to Mother Earth, and you know every morning you have to go into the field, and you have to go and market, and you have to go and sell. Big mistake. And I've seen a two-man business with a CEO and the COO. Yeah. So.
And then when you ask them, what do you do? I'm an entrepreneur.
No.
Like, what do you do, though?
No, I'm an entrepreneur. You know.
Okay.
And they've got piles and piles of business cards. Save that money. I mean, I used to print business cards on bond paper and cut them nicely and just have them laminated. That allowed me, you know, to it was neatly done. But they got the job done.
Brilliant. So what then, the flip side of that is what advice? I know you put in a lot of the advice even in the mistakes. What other advice would you give somebody that wants to start or wants to grow their business and they're struggling some ways? What would you say?
You have to have a certain level of determination that is just not questionable. You have to be committed. You have to be disciplined. You have to also close your ears to negative opinions. I find it very strange that one broke guy will go and ask for advice from another broke guy and really expect that they will give them advice. You're going to ask for advice about entrepreneurship for somebody who has got no clue what the word even means. You know, so you just have to make a decision, and regardless of what people tell you, you know your path. You know your path, and you stay focused on that. A couple of years ago, I figured out that some of the MDs, I wouldn't see them with my tricky IMAD CEO. So I discovered that a lot of them play golf. I didn't have money for clubs and whatever else happens at the golf club. So I decided one night, I spent the entire night studying about golf. So I learned about putting, and I learned about 18 holes and whatever else. Went to the golf club, asked if I could try out, and I mean, I looked pretty elegant. I bought a pair of cheap shoes and looked like I was a golfer. I told them I want to try out, and I spotted the MD that I wanted to speak to and made sure that we were on the range together, and I was 2 minutes later, I moved closer and I moved closer and I introduced myself, and the next time I was calling him George in his office. You know, so you have to be very enterprising in terms of meeting decision makers. That's when networking is very important. So get yourselves affiliated with organizations that will get you to where you want to be. Meet people that will get you to where you want to be. Husbands, wives, this 8 to 5 as an entrepreneur just doesn't work. What are you doing at home at 5? You know, decisions and contracts are signed over a glass of whiskey, and you're at home watching Days of Our Lives.
Repeat.
No, it doesn't work like that. So there is a time where you are going to have to give up, and that's where I say we talk about balance all the time, but balance doesn't work all the time. Something has to give to a certain point where the business, then the foundation is strong enough. And now, I've been in business 13 years now. I can go home at 5. I can go home at 12. Why? Because I've built a business that can stand the test of time. In fact, now I don't even go to the office because I've cloned my team to think and act like me, that they can make decisions whether I'm there or not.
Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. So what are your plans now for Prosoft? Expansion, or what are the plans?
Right now I'm happy with where we are. I think for the last 5-6 years, we've won awards for the best HR development company in Zambia, which I never thought would ever happen.
Oh, nice. Well done.
Yes, I've managed to train a very good team that I can travel 2 months. And normally when I travel, the way I taught them was when I travel, even if it's for 2 days, I say, don't call me, don't SMS me, don't email me, even if the building burns down, if somebody dies, I'll go to the graveside when I get back. So that way it stopped them from relying too much on me, so they can go and have big
always
meetings.
being rescued.
Yes. But what I'm doing now is I also realize that because I'm in the consultancy field, when companies are going through stress, the first thing that they cut down is actually consultancy. So we are the first people to be chopped down, and that has an effect on our income. So what I've done now is obviously through the income that I've raised over the years, I've invested in a farm, and I'm exchanging high heels for gumboots now.
Oh, good.
And and I know people always want to eat, so I'll never go wrong with farming.
So, and what would you say now when we bring it to the national level? What are some of the things that you think need to improve if we're to create more entrepreneurship and grow businesses in Zambia?
You know, it's a double-edged sword in the sense that a lot of people will say the reason why most entrepreneurs can't sustain themselves is because they don't have access to funding. But most of the people that have come to me for advice and coaching, and they say to me, well, Miyanda, I can't go into business because I've not been able to source funding. I say to them, how much do you want? And I take out my checkbook and I say, how much do you want? I'm not so sure. Most people who say they cannot access capital don't even know how much they're looking at. And so I'm saying it's a double-edged sword in the sense that there are those like me who started the business without anything, without adequate capital. And then there are those that really have to go into business, for example, manufacturing, mining, where they do need to have some sort of capital injection. And so if only the financial institutions would ease themselves a little bit and be able to look at certain projects with a different eye. And I've been to so many forums where they are managing directors of these financial institutions, and they claim that they're giving money to entrepreneurs, but I have walked that walk. You know, I have been to a bank a couple of years ago when I needed capital, and the one guy didn't even look at my account and just said to me, the problem with you people, you and your friends, meaning us and the SMEs, is you don't pay back, so really we can't give you the money. So on one side, I think the entrepreneurs need to be a little bit more open-minded in terms of allowing themselves to start small and building their capital as they go, because now I can invest into other businesses because I have grown to that level. But also the financial institutions need to be a little bit more open to listening to young people that have got brilliant ideas, brilliant bankable ideas. Yeah.
Great. Before we go to questions, any last words you'd like to give?
Yeah, I know I may have painted this picture that, gosh, you will die if you plunge. No, you won't. Really to sit and wait for government to create those jobs is a pipe dream. I think the jobs are going to come from men and women like yourselves who are here today, who are able to start that one business that then employs the second person and employs the third person. So just weigh your options really, really carefully. Don't go around asking people what is trending these days, what business can I go into. Nobody can tell you what business you can go into. Business comes from the passion that you have, and it is that passion that keeps you going. So pick a business that you want, something that makes sense to you, not something that somebody else has, because again, the staying power then becomes exhausted.
Right.
Yeah, but let's go out there and make a difference.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Miyanda. Awesome. We're going to take questions, and one question per person, and short question. Yes, there's a question there.
Okay, thank you. My name is James. When you started out, you were saying you were out in the field. You were in sales. You were doing sales. Now, I understand you studied HR. And how did you get that skill of being in sales? Did you do a certain short courses, or it just came out of you as a natural skill?
From the time that I was in college, I had a mentor. And my mentor told me that if I ever wanted to go into private business, I needed to learn how to market or how to sell. And so, other than the fact that I'm privileged, gifted in being able to communicate really well, I studied for a certificate with the Chartered Institute of Marketing. But you know what, that's just a piece of paper. That's not what actually goes out there and have that conversation. So, and that's the one challenge that I should have mentioned that most entrepreneurs have, in the sense that they're very technically competent, but they're not able to move that technical skill to the person who's going to buy. And that is why a lot of people, for example, somebody is a brilliant mechanic and then they say, I'm going to start my own garage. It's not going to last because they can't sell. Yeah. So I made that decision to do that little short course, but then I also do a lot of reading the internet is great. So I taught myself how to go and sell. And because I did a lot of research on what allows a business to grow, and what allows a business to grow is sales, and it's marketing. It's not operations comes in, yes, but it's your ability to go and convince a buyer that your product is good enough.
Great. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, there's a question.
Congratulations on your story. Very inspiring, actually. I was just curious, something you said, that you managed to clone your staff so that they think and act like you. And I'm just curious, how did you accomplish that?
Very interesting question. In fact, the first probably 2-3 years of me running the business, it was very difficult. I assumed that being an HR person, naturally, I must be good with people, but people would come and go for the simple reason that I was too tough. I expected everybody not to sleep just like me. I expected everybody to work just like me. And then at some point I realized that I was using the wrong approach, and then I changed from the dictator me to the coaching and mentoring me. And so I then also made a decision, or I realized that I could not use a one-size-fits-all for each of my employees. And so what I did at an early stage is that I had them all go through psychometric tests with a company called Thomas International, which gave me a little bit more insight into what their strengths and challenges were. And then what I did is then I focused on what each person's strengths. I don't worry about people's weaknesses. What am I going to do? Improve them. So I focused on their strengths, and I realized this one was good at admin, and so I focused on growing them in that direction. This one was good at figures, this one was good at selling, and I focused them in that area. I know the word cloning them to think and feel like me is a little bit mean, sounds a little bit mean and cruel.
You created a little mean.
I've created little me's, and I did that by, on a different day, I'll go with one person into the field, and then they would assume that I am going to lead the meeting, and would get there and we'd get into a boardroom and there's maybe 15 directors and decisions need to be made, and I'll just sit, and then in the meeting I'll just say, well, get up. And so they would get up and stumble a little bit, and then after that I would say to them, you should have been better if you did it this way. And slowly they began to become a little bit more comfortable. And then there were also times when a client will call and set up a meeting, and they would tell me that they wanted to see me, and deliberately I would be 10 minutes late, and they would have no choice but to go and see the client alone. It's kind of tough love, but then now I go to meetings with them and I look at them and I think, my goodness, why do you speak like me? But it takes a lot of patience, which most business owners do not have. They want work done, but they're not willing to put in the time to actually coach and show their team what needs to be.
Mistakes.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Miyanda, you say in your chat that you are happy with where you are right now with Prosoft. Does that mean that you don't have any plans for future expansion?
As Prosoft?
Yes. I think you mentioned that you are happy with where the company is
Because
right now.
we have established associate consultants around the world. In fact, some of the projects that we run out of here are deals that we do offline. We have done recruitment for companies that have not even set up here, and by the time they set up here, people wonder how we got the contract. So we do have associate consultants all over that we've established and that we're happy with. My drive now is to go into other businesses as opposed to just growing that particular one. And also, there was a time when I worked in overdrive. I was living at 260 kilometers an hour. And then at some point I developed migraines, and I realized that I needed to slow down. So I went and had a chat with my financial advisor. I have had a financial advisor, and that's something else that I'd advise
So
anyone going into private business.
Somebody
I was
who knows
paying,
about money to advise you about money.
Yes. I did that. So at some point I went to her and I said, you know what, when I started off I wanted to be a multimillionaire and I wanted to make money and I wanted to jet set and whatever else, but I'm getting tired. So she said to me, okay, go home and write me a list of what your expenses, like in a month, how much would make you happy? So I went home and I wrote all these holidays and the kids and private schools and whatever else. And when we sat down with my financial advisor, I realized that I was actually driving myself nuts for nothing, and that I was actually working within the sphere of what I needed to be okay. You know, when I was in college, and I think most people here went through that Maslow hierarchy of needs, and there was a time in college, you know, our lecturer would say, you know, you will get to a point in your life where you will actualize, and they always had this picture of a speedboat, and do you remember that? And I would think, you know, how do you get to that level? But you know, self-actualization doesn't necessarily mean you're having $1 million in the account. It's getting to a place where you're comfortable, you're happy, you wake up and really everything is okay. And I strongly believe that I have reached that place where I wake up and I live my life on my own terms, and I make decisions that are suitable for me, and I am at peace with myself. And I never ever thought that I would get to that place where I can wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm not going to work. And I can phone my executive assistant and say, I'm not coming to work. She said, you're not feeling well? I said, no, I'm going to watch TV today. You know, so it's really not about having a big chunk of money in the account. I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
Brilliant. Thanks.
I must say I'm really happy to see where you've gotten today. I've seen your company grow, and I've been part of your tutoring at some point. I know it wouldn't remember, but it's okay. You talked about a partner being supportive over someone's passion or dream. I would say probably if one has a dream to do something and the partner has a passion to learn what the other person dreams to really achieve, how do you fight that?
It really is a catch-22. It's very difficult to have that, to come across an interesting you and where is she? Yeah, this is one thing that I maybe she should answer the question, because I can't figure out how you do it. I mean, I would have killed each other, you know. So it's not the easiest thing to get a supportive partner, and really when you give one a hold on to it. It's only when you begin to make the money, and those that have made the money, you know what I'm talking about. When you begin to then buy her the Mercedes, suddenly, you know, she talks about you. And also with the husbands, when the woman starts the business, it is your business, it's your money, you are making noise for me. When she begins to make the money, it becomes our money. It's our money. When she supersedes, it's my money. I will, you know. So it's a delicate. You have to. There's no blueprint around that. There really isn't a blueprint around that.
Great. I can jump in quickly. I think from our experience, because you brought it up, it's really you need to grow together. So you and your partner, there shouldn't be like from the get-go. It shouldn't be like a huge gap. If there's a massive gap already where one looks up to the other, you know it's going to be like that, and it's okay if that's what you decided to be. But then sometimes you find that women minimize themselves for their men. You say, and then actually some people say, oh, like this, the way you're confident, you never get married. But please, women, don't settle. There are good men you find who will take you as you are. You don't have to minimize parts of you. And then as you're growing together, have the crucial conversations all the time. Because even when you started out the same, whether it's in education or business or even just looks, one starts to subside and the other one keeps quiet. You need to have that conversation like, hey, look, you need to start going to gym because now, you know, or hey, in terms of business, you're backsliding, you need to catch up. In terms of education, so that needs to always happen, and then to know that you're good friends to begin with, then you will have people and things.